in Divorce Month. That's right. This week is one of the busiest weeks in the for the search term divorce on Google. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that because we all go back to work and kind of get back in the game, you may start to see some of your employees that might be struggling. This is a time after all that people, kids have gone back to work. It's a new year, new Year's resolution. Hi, my name is Vicki Townsend, and I'm the founder and president of Divorce Right. We provide training for HR professionals and company supervisors and anybody in a leadership position. And we provide divorce coaching and case management for your divorcing employees. And I want to introduce to you the amazing Paulette Rigo. She is a certified divorce coach, a certified divorce specialist, a credentialed mediator, and director of coaching and management here at Divorce Right. And together we tackle the biggest disruptor in your company, and that's divorce. And a reminder for those that are the first time you've joined us, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members. So we're going to be posting a link at the end of this broadcast so that you can grab yours. And today we're going to be talking about cultural divorces. You know what? We're in divorce month and those employees are struggling. And, some of them are different because the cultural issues they face that some of us here in the United States may not be familiar with. So we have brought Samir Shah to our LinkedIn Live today to discuss the matters facing your Southeast Asian Indian employees and the Indian matrimonial mindset. So let me tell you a little bit about Samir. Samir Shah is an advocate from India and an international arbitrator and mediator with an active legal practice and experience of 28 years. He's the director of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in London, founder and visionary of the Alternative Dispute Resolution Bar in India. He has his own proprietary law firm under the name of S.U. Shah and Associates, having offices in, I'm going to mess this up, Samir, Ahmedabad, and has associates across India and in several important international jurisdictions. And he is actively promoting alternative dispute resolution as a practitioner, mentor, trainer, coach, and consultant. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Samir. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to, present this thought process on a very interesting and one of.
I want to remind our audience we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Samir is calling in from India. It is almost midnight his time. So let's see if we've got you back. Samir, are you there?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I am there. Can you hear
there
me now?
You are. There you go. Yes, absolutely. So you know what? I'm going to pass this over to Paulette to get us started.
Well, Samir, as long as you can hear us and everyone else, we want to learn as much as we can from you because most people do not know, I didn't, that American Indian population make up 4.5 million people here in the United States. And I'm sure the number is similar in other countries like Canada and even in, I know, the UK too. So, it's a large population of people. We don't just, think of the Indian culture being in India anymore. It is expanded greatly, and a certain number of that population is going to be affected by divorce every year, depending on the statistics. And of course, those people that are affected have their employees and their jobs and their careers, and it affects, as we know in what we do at Divorce Right, it affects them not only in their family unit, but it trickles down into the domino effect of every other aspect of their life. And if you're a business owner or an HR professional, even an employee, it's bam, it's going to have an impact. So I'm happy to learn that number is what I know it is at 4.5 million. So as we were talking earlier, all the cities that have larger populations being New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Atlanta. But a few questions so that everyone could get really clear on this. But there's a difference in how Indian culture sees marriage. So if you could just enlighten us, educate us, on how does Indian culture see marriage and differently than the traditional definition of how we here in the United States see it?
Well, first of all, the Indian mindset towards the culture as an institute, I mean, towards marriage as an institution, and the Western thought process is that it's not a contract. It's basically, coming together of two families,
Hmm.
uh, two it's the husband and wife, but basically two families,
Hmm.
and it is uh, for sure. I mean, it's for long period. It's not fit for some or many or for any reason. You know, that's the concept. So once you are married, you're married for the whole life. Major, difference between how marriage is viewed in the Western culture uh, compared to Indian or many other South Asian culture as well. So, so far as marriage, apart from this, is also, I mean, considered very important uh, from the societies. One of the reasons uh, like we can discuss later of why there are divorces happening, or why today now the young generation, as I said, so it is very important from the society's perspective, because as and when, especially from a girl's parents perspective, if when she reaches the parents would start searching for the groom without thinking about her aspirations, or her human being. They would say that's what society would say.
Hmm.
So on the ground of the societal pressure, you know the institution of marriage also important from the Indian perspective. But as I said, it's not a contract. It's bringing together of two families. Now that it can extend to, we still have that joint family culture,
Hmm.
where the grandparents, the great, maybe even the great grandparents, and down the third generation are living together in in US or other Western countries. But that's the culture here. So
So
and
can
but
I just
it has
can I
its.
just can I interject real quick? So what you're saying is that in the Indian culture, you're marrying the family, not just the bride and groom. You're marrying the family. The family comes together. I see. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. So my apologies for interjecting there, but I just wasn't quite figuring it out until I put it out.
And it's not just the parents, but the extended parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, the entire lineage, right? You're now this extended family unit. So the merging together of two extended families, right? Yeah. So explain to us a little bit about how engagement is different too. Here in the U.S., a couple they meet, they fall in love, there's courting, and then there's an engagement where traditionally the man would propose to the woman, although again that's traditional, and she has the ability now to say yes or no. And he gets down on bended knee and gives her a ring, and of course it's highly unique every situation. Some put a lot of thought into it, and others it's a spur of the moment thing. But so that's the tradition here, and the family doesn't really have much to do with it. Now there's a little bit of a tradition here that he would ask the father of the girl for his blessing, right? Although I don't know what statistic is there,
Haven't
Vicki,
done
that
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 anymore.
still happens. But I mean, I'm old, and I'm just going to go with it that might still happen in some instances. But putting all tradition aside, that's the extent of it, Samir. We don't really have any other traditions in the United States as far as engagement goes that I know of. Vicki, you correct me if I'm wrong, but right. So no, so enlighten us. How does it differ? What is the thought process behind the engagement, or as I'm learning, it's called a tie-up?
Yeah. So you see, um, whether it's full of tradition here. There are so many ceremonies going on, even in the engagement, and you know, culminating into a marriage. The time period, unlike in US, where the couple actually dates for some time, try to understand each other, and then further into serious marriage or not. Here, generally, the Indian mindset is that you know uh, there is very short, uh, because again, the societal issues comes into play. The traditional Indian mindset is that with the boy alone before they are married. So that's still the old traditional thinking, though it's improving now with the younger generation, and of course parents different way. But generally, if you see, that mindset, that thought process is still there, and therefore there is hardly any time between the engagement and the marriage. Understand each other, and majority of the marriages in India are arranged. When I'm talking of arranged, it means that again the family factor. So the girl and the boy, through the referrals or through contacts, through friends, relatives, they would discuss about the the boy and the girl, whether they are suiting. The parent would say yes, we like the girl or the boy, and then they just have a 1 day meeting. They will ask the boy to just sit and discuss. This of course has so many problems later on, but the institution is still working well since ages. um, so that not to give that much time, immediately go into marriage and then take your life ahead. That's it.
What is the average age? Is there one? What are you seeing an elevation in the age of marriage, or is it still staying relatively young?
Well, as I said, traditional thinking is again, as soon as the girl reaches the age, she is put into pressure by the parents to, get married. But of
Right.
late years, of the, the change in the thought process, the younger generation, they are thinking of marrying only after, after 24 or 25 years of age.
Usually after they graduate school and education. Right. Well, I have a friend, Diana, that married an Indian professor, and I was invited to the wedding. And I just
Mhm.
thought it was going to be a weekend. I didn't know that I was expected to be there for 2 weeks worth of traditional ceremonies before the actual wedding. So, it took place in India, and it was quite the event. So I did get a little smattering of what that was like, but of course she was older, and this was a different type of wedding. But I was curious if perhaps the age has changed, but maybe the younger generation is, going to 26 or 27, but I still don't see it moving into the 30s. Most
Oh,
marriages here in the States are, I think, I don't know what the average age now is, probably more like 28 to 30 instead of what it used to be of 21 to 24. So tell us about this conundrum between arranged marriage, which is, I think, the common term that we hear, between the love marriage or the traditional, you fall in love and you get married. How does that differ? What is that conundrum?
Well, difference is, I would just put it in one simple way. As I said, that, it is arranged by the families of the boy and the girl. So the boy and the girl has not much to say in the whole, issue of the, most of the times they are put into pressure and just have to say yes because the parents have agreed, especially the father, the mother. But even if in case of love marriage, when let's say, in spite of this traditional thinking, the boy and girl comes back to their parents saying that we love, boils down to agreement or consent from the parents. So in a way, love marriage is also arranged indirectly because they cannot marry. Either they have to,
can you just
no.
as one of
Yeah.
the children whose arranged marriage is being arranged, can you say no?
I'm sorry. Can you just repeat that? What do you mean by
If
that?
it was me,
Can you say
right?
no? I mean,
I'm the rebel. I'm a rebel by nature, but if it was my parents and they made a prearranged marriage for me, one, how old am I when that happens? And can I say no?
well, you can, of course, you can, but normally you won't from the Indian
Because
perspective.
of the pressure.
If
You
you
don't want to be disowned, apparently. Yeah.
Well,
Is
it's
there
not
sort of is there a sense of sort of
Yeah.
shame and judgment or fear involved in that? Okay. Mm.
all
And
all
it's
to
normally the bride's father or
all
the
what you
groom's
just said, mostly by the bride's father. The
bride's father.
pressure is more on the bride than the groom.
Hmm.
And at
So,
what age?
so
At what age is
ultimately,
that done?
Is it
what age?
18 or 21 or what?
At what age is that decided?
As I said, that's the time they would always decide to get married.
You know what? I apologize, but due to our technical issues, what age does that happen when the parents make a decision on who their daughter's going to marry?
21.
21. Okay.
Okay. Well, at least she gets to graduate high school, college. Yeah.
Maybe.
Interesting. So, what are the factors affecting these lifelong lasting marriages? Is there a criteria in Indian culture? Is there some sort of list or a protocol or something that they should follow? Are they aware of this when the parents make the arranged marriage, or is this something the two of them have to figure out by themselves together?
No, you see, it's mostly from the girl's perspective. Throughout, as soon as she reaches the age of 18 and going towards 21, she's always taught by her mother is compromising in any situation, to be subdued, to be a kind of yes man, to no matter what happens, she should not be complaining. She should just take it as it is and try to improve upon situations. So this is the mindset which is being from the traditional Indian, thought process. So with that mindset, that the psychology of the girls are, being trained that way. Is won't be a rebel as such. They will always try to compromise on their own freedom, on their
Yeah.
So so this, I think, is one of the major factor which makes this marriage continues for whatever reason, marriage or not, but it
Out of
continues.
obligation, out of obligation and commitment to please the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So we
Yes.
digress and now segue a bit to why divorce happens in India. Because it does happen, not that Vicky and I are pro-divorce, and I believe, Samir, you are not either. We don't mean to make an assumption, but it is a fact of life, and it's not vanishing, it's not going away, it's not diminishing. So because of the intensity of this cultural obligation, but yet divorce still happens, there must really be a bit of shock and awe to some, if not all, of the family members as to, wait, you want a what? And so, what are the reasons for divorce in Indian culture? Like, could you explain that? Because as with 4.5 million Americans, Indian Americans, we need to know.
Well, I think it again goes back. Um, it's little contradictory in the sense, but it again, one of the major reasons is again from the bride's parental side, and especially the mother. Taught, as I was telling you, about, to be compromising, but at the same time, she is also being taught, to behave in some, and that actually creates the friction between the bride and the groom and the groom's family members.
Mm.
So, and that one same person, the bride's mother, is, putting her to all these kind of compromising and, take it easy kind of situation and thought process, and then encouraging her to be a sort of rebel, to be to behave in a different way with different people, and create friction. So that's, and leading to divorces in India of late. Of course, coming to the newer generation, the young people who are, is again going back to their mindsets. Now they are thinking more on the Western side, being independent financially and otherwise, and therefore they've into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without thinking of the consequences, and especially in case of when they have children.
Right.
So that's another issue of now. Even those people who have moved, let's say, from India to America, to US or UK, there's lots and lots of issues happening, because I have been, approached by either in US or UK, and, on the divorce problems. And if you listen to them, the problem generally is not that big. Given proper advice, they have not been given proper guidance, they have not been given proper counseling. That's the problem. So, and then, majority of the cases, the groom are molded into this Western thought process. uh, with all due respect, when I say West, I'm not, blaming any particular country. I'm just giving a general understanding that, and this wife, or the bride, who has come from the Indian, mindset, there's always a
I would
friction anyway.
I,
But
I
then
would
sorry.
I would love to let everybody know about a book by one of our divorce coaches, Cindy Gunraj, who was in an arranged marriage and moved here to the United States. And she did end up getting a divorce, but it was unbelievably stressful for her, particularly with her mother, to the point where after she did divorce her husband, who had been beating her, it's all in her books. I'm not saying anything that you wouldn't hear. But even with that, even though he was beating her and her mother knew it, her mother still did not want her to leave her husband. She called her from the hospital with a broken arm, a broken clavicle, and a broken orbital bone. And her mother still told her, if you divorce your husband, I'll drink acid. So it's unbelievably challenging in the culture of, I think, in generations too. We're really talking about a generational shift here, right? And sadly, Cindy, and you can read this in her book, stayed for another 4 years. And finally, she said, either I'm going to die or she is. And she took her chances. She didn't think her mother would die. But what ended up happening is that Cindy has no relation with her mother. Her mother won't, funerals. Cindy's no longer welcome to any family holidays. Cindy's not welcome. So there's so much in that older generation and younger generation, and I think that we've all got to kind of just get to that point where people can, and we as a company want our HR people here in the United States to understand some of these pressures that are happening because of customs that their families come from and traditions that their families come from generations ago that seem to us to be a little archaic, or just, I can't divorce my husband because he's, terrible to me, or we don't get along, or all sorts of different things. So we're growing into I think a different mindset, to your point, with the Indian culture. So is that changing the mindset there in India?
What you just mentioned about this person, Sandy, as per the traditional Indian thought process, the culting his wife is allowed. There's nothing wrong. That's the thought. So as a kind of a a thing, a commodity to be owned, somebody to be owned by the husband, and he has all the. So what example you just gave about this book and her own experience, I think there is nothing new from the Indian perspective, because that is the reason why her mother came from that old traditional school of thought that no matter what happens, once you are married throughout the life, and you have to just stay changing. It is changing in a way for good and for bad as well. But if I look from a positive angle, yes, it is changing. People are, especially, important laws being enacted by the government to protect women as such in these kind of situations. We have a very robust, which actually helps women in this kind of situation, and many other laws for that matter. And so that is also, helping the women to take up the stand actively, strongly, to protect their own rights. Yeah, to say that if something is wrong, if they don't feel it's right, it is wrong.
And Samir, as an attorney with deep knowledge and experience in Indian divorce, and your commitment to help both as an attorney, but also focusing on alternative dispute resolution in this world, it seems as if you're giving these people, these women predominantly, a place to go, a safe place to go where they can be knowledgeable and understand the laws and the procedures around protecting themselves, not only physically, but financially. I've had several clients who are Indian that their greatest fear is that they're going to be living under a bridge broke because the husband will basically take everything and leave them penniless. And newsflash, that isn't the way it works in the United States, everyone. So, but they just need someone like yourself that have that additional knowledge in the culture, and but also in the divorce process, because pardon the pun, it's a marriage of the two worlds.
See, no, let me just briefly explain. When, if some wife or a bride is coming to me as a client, how I handle that particular case, because divorce for me would be but so the first step would be, I would be, maybe for 3 to 4 sessions, I would be just listening to her, whatever she wants to say, and always call her, maybe many times not in my office, wherever she is comfortable with whomsoever she wants to come. So I will be going there, maybe, more comfortable. That's fine with me. So I would just try to first listen her out and understand the problem, where she's coming. And then after that, after taking notes of that, I would try to call up the husband as well. And fortunately, in calling up the other side to me as a neutral person. So I will again, listen to that side of to collect the two notes and find out the common issues. So these kind of sessions goes on. So apart from being an attorney, so once these two notes are being collated, I'll try to bring them together in a joint session. But in that case, I make sure that both of them are there, not alone. It happens, many times they may not be able to face each other because of the acrimony which has, led to such a level. So I put them in a situation where they're comfortable with the person with whom they can share, they can open up, and then I would be there and at a place where they feel comfortable, not necessarily at my office or restaurant or whatever.
Right. So they feel
try
safe.
to have this. Yeah. So joint session, and try to understand. Again, I would be just a listen how they are behaving with each other. That also, experience, you can able to know that why they are behaving, what could be the reasons, because you have at least the basic notes, few sessions which have gone. Then I'll call them alone, two together, and then try to counsel them that what the situation, or where they can improve. In fact, I won't say they are wrong, because everybody has his own way of looking at the situation. So I would just tell them how it can be improved.
Well, so,
and then
Samir, so because I do want to be mindful of everybody's time, and you are so filled with information around this culture. And I know, so you're moving here to the United States. So why don't you share, do you have your email addresses, your website? Do you have any sort of contact information that anybody that's listening to this might need to hear? Because you're going to be here in the United States in less than 2 weeks. So why don't you tell everybody how to get in touch with you? Because this is, we don't think about this in the United States, and the impact of arranged marriages on the emotional psyche of an employee that shows up at work and has to go through this. And hearing it from Cindy's perspective from her book, having somebody like you, Samir, is critical. So why don't you tell everybody what is your new contact information here in the United States?
Well, you can reach me at my email, which is You want me to just type
I'll go ahead and type
down
it in. I'm typing
here?
it in now. So go ahead.
Okay. SAMIRUSHAH.
US what?
USHAH. Should I
I
write it down?
No, you know what? You know what?
USHA. We'll have to put it in the
Yeah,
link.
we'll put it in post. But thank you so much for being here today. Hopefully this gave our listeners a bird's eye view into the stressors that face your Indian employees here in the United States that
Mhm.
may have moved here from India or still living with the traditions of a traditional Indian marriage and have decided that they have made the commitment to end their marriage. So thank you, Samir. Thank you so much for being with us today. I hope that this was helpful to everybody. And this is your SHRM credits for today's show. Just fill out the form on that link right there. That should be a hot link for you. Next week, we're going to be talking about the divorces in the case of special needs children with Dr. Susan Bernstein. So we're really excited about speaking about that. Those families also experience a very high divorce rate. And with some very small errors, families can lose their federal benefits. So we want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. And we'll see you next Thursday here at 1 p.m. on LinkedIn Live. And we look forward. Samir, thank you so much. And again, we apologize for the technology.
All the way from India.
All the way from India. That's right. So thank you all so much. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.